there's 8,000 tons of granite that forms the center column of the Great Pyramid. So the outside is limestone, cut close by, but 8,000 tons of it is granite from 500 miles away. And it's slabs that average about 70 tons each. Okay, when I found that out, then I was like, whoa, no way. So if you go on the tour of Israel, up in the far north of the country, the oldest thing, and this is, you go on the tour, and your guy's going to say, this is the oldest thing you're going to see. This is, is the sort of the Abraham Gate up at Tel Dan. And what they're going to tell you is, and it's accurate as best I know, is that we can tell how old this is because this gate is made from mud bricks. And what they're going to tell you is that all throughout the Levant, so basically modern day Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, sort of the Eastern Med, if you would, that all throughout that region, anything that is pre-Iron Age, so Bronze Age or earlier, is made from mud brick. And as soon as you have structures made out of stone, like a stone wall around a city or something like that, then it's early iron or later, with the basic concept being you can't cut rocks with copper, but you can cut them with iron. And as soon as we had iron, we could cut rocks and we could build big, nice things. And so this is going back, I had been to Egypt twice, kind of early on in my career in the Middle East, and had been to the pyramids both times. And funny enough, my reaction to the pyramids was to kind of look at them and say, well, they're really big, but I don't know. They didn't, a lot of people go to the pyramids and they're just super wowed. I mean, I was, impressed with their size, as anyone would have to be, particularly the Great Pyramid. But, the reality is, the exterior stones on the Great Pyramid, they're about 2.5 tons each, I think. So, they're big, but they're not that big. I lived in Jerusalem for years, and Jerusalem, there are rocks in the wall, like Herodian stones that were used to construct the temple that weigh hundreds of tons.
You mentioned when we were filming that episode, when we did our travel series, that the Roman soldiers gave up, and that's why.
Yeah, they were trying to tear the
there.
whole thing down, and they were like, "Heck with this! These things weigh too much."
And then that's the actual Wailing Wall as it stands now, right? That's just
that's all that's left. Yeah, and so what happened to me was I'd spent so much time, being around there, and you got these stones that literally weigh hundreds of tons. When I saw the pyramids, I was like, 2.5 ton rocks it's not that big a deal, And I think they're primarily limestone, which is, you can cut it, but it's hard. It's really good building material. Limestone's cool because if you hit it with a hammer, it breaks fairly easy, but it's really, really strong under slow pressure. So it's like this perfect, building material, really. And so I was used to kind of seeing that. And so again, the limestone work in Israel is more impressive. So I was like, it's cool, but whatever. And so then to get back to the gate, the Abraham Gate. I'm up there one day and I'm explaining to this group, and again, I'd been to Egypt and not been very impressed, so I hadn't done my homework on it. I still don't really love Egyptology, frankly, and so I hadn't studied it. And I'm there giving the presentation about the Abraham thing. I'm talking about how we couldn't cut rocks until the Iron Age, and so that's why this is mud brick. And somebody in the back of the group that had done their Egyptology, knew a little more, kind of raises their hand. They're like, excuse me. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, what about the pyramids? I'm like, because I didn't know. I'm like, well, I mean, they have to be Iron Age or later because that's a lot of cut rock. And they're like, no, they're Bronze Age. And I was kind of, no, really? You can't cut that much rock with copper. And they're like, no, they're definitely Bronze Age. And so, and so I went and looked it up, and sure enough, the standard narrative is, it dates them, it put the Great Pyramid, like early, like way back, but Bronze Age. And I was like, well, that's weird. And then there's these theories about how somehow you make like a bronze axe and you use sand between it. And they've got these theories on how it maybe was done, but they doesn't hold a whole lot of water for me. I'm just kind of like, whatever, maybe. That's a lot of rock to cut, with copper. And so that made me start to question the narrative. What really, really tipped me over was this. There's 8,000 tons of granite that forms the center column of the Great Pyramid. So the outside is limestone, cut close by. But 8,000 tons of it is granite from 500 miles away. And it's slabs that like average about 70 tons each. So you got 70-ton slabs of granite. They're sort of stacked on each other like this, that form the center of the pyramid. And then the other stones are kind of dressed around that. Okay, when I found that out, then I was like, whoa, no way. Like, you're saying you're going to cut limestone with copper. I'm really doubtful. Now you're telling me you're cutting granite with copper. I'm more than doubtful. I'm totally like, no, I don't believe you.
And
it was kind of my baseline thought.
For a historical context, because you referenced the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, so that limestone was quarried not just on the same mountain, right?
Just up the hill, just up the hill,
right?
And it's much later. The stuff in Jerusalem is from first century, basically, either BC or AD, but it's basically right around the time of Jesus, right on year 0. And the thing with the pyramid, once you start to realize the problems, I've read reports before that say it would take like a laser cutter to replicate the precision of some of the cuts and things like that in the pyramid slabs. And so that just starts to raise a lot of questions, like how on earth did you do that? And you typically see this, you'll see these, sort of drawings in, high school or elementary school textbooks that show the pyramid sort of being formed. And there's these sort of ramps, sort of like, here's the top of the pyramid and here's like a ramp going down, and they're hauling the blocks up the ramp. And then you start to think about that. And the basic estimate is that the slope of the ramp has to be 10% or less in order for the rocks not to just fall back down, and it has to be strong enough that a 70-ton slab doesn't just sink into it. And so what you end up with, I forget the exact math, but basically if they built the pyramid with a ramp like that, the pyramid itself or the ramp would have been larger than the pyramid and a greater architectural wonder. So it's like, no, that's not how they did it. They didn't build. Where did it go? Where did this giant ramp that they built to move the rocks, that now you can't answer how the ramp was built? It's just it's a swirl of questions that we don't really have answers for. And you dig into the archaeology and you actually find more and more and more things like the pyramids that really, I think we just really have no idea about. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, click like and subscribe. It really helps us. And if you really enjoyed it, go on over to our website, glandinthebible.com, and become a supporter. It helps us generate more content and gives you access to our full library of video and Bible study content.